From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Hickson, finally joined in studio by my longtime dear friend, someone who I have been working with for the last probably about a decade or so.
15 years?
Almost 15 years.
I had my show for
someone
13 years.
who has been a friend to me, someone who has been a brother to me,
Yes.
someone who could be a bit of a pain, but don't all brothers ever look at each other as pains? Isn't that true, Mr. Bosa?
Well, let me introduce myself because I'm Humpty. I know how to. No, the hardest, baddest, sexiest man
You're
on cable
Shock
access
G?
TV is still here to amuse you guys, ladies
I
and
thought you
gentlemen.
were MC Shock G
Yeah,
from Digital
exactly.
Underground.
We've had some good times, and we've had very bad disagreements. But all in all, I've always been right. But all in all,
No, all in all, you're like an idiot.
But here we go. The biggest news. Has it been the 7-year contract or David Stale getting fired?
Lately, it's been that 7-year contract that the Yankees offered. And from what I understand,
The Rockies.
yeah, the Colorado Rockies.
They gave him
Speaking of big contracts, Steven Strasburg is back with the Nationals.
Yep.
7 years, $245 million, the largest contract ever, and the largest contract ever signed by a pitcher. And I can tell you with all certainty, this is going to change because the Yankees have made it no secret. They want Garrett Cole. And it looks like they may break $300 million in order to make a deal happen.
Now, I hope they don't give him 9 years or 10.
From
like
what I
they're
understand,
saying.
it's also going to be a 7-year deal,
Well, you know,
which means
He's 29
probably
years
four,
old.
which could mean $40 million a year.
he's 29 years old, New York taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll break even,
Yeah.
depending upon
The
how
taxes
much
are
they
going to
cut.
kill him, though.
So, and because California is still in it. California Angels.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
The California Angels
I
are
thought it was
in
the
it.
LA
The
Angels.
Dodgers are in it to a
The
certain
LA
degree,
Angels
but
and the
the Angels really would like to have
Right.
Garrett Cole.
But all in all, the Rockies signed this guy. Now they can't sign the other guy.
You're talking about the Nationals, right?
Yeah, the Nationals.
Yeah, they
can't
re-signed
sign.
Steven Strasburg, and it's looking more and more like Anthony Rendon is going to be going elsewhere.
He's
and
bye-bye.
he's a guy that also has drawn interest from the Dodgers.
Now imagine him going to the Mets.
Anthony Rendon is a Met. Now that would be something.
But
That would really tweak the fan base in D.C. But the Mets don't like spending money.
the Mets are but they got a new partial owner
Yeah,
that's going to open up the bank supposedly.
that's right. Steve Cohen.
El Cheapo Wilpon.
Yeah, the Wilpon family. The fans will not have to hear about the Wilpons 5 years from now. They still have to put up with him for the next 5 years, but
4.
the next, well,
I thought it was 4. That's
either 4 or
I
5
think-
years.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
But
with
it's
that.
looking more and more like the Mets may be going in a new direction with Steve Cohen as the new boss of the Mets 4 or 5 years from
I
now,
wish
which
that-
means no more penny pinching,
Hopefully.
no more waffling on money, no more just staying in the background while all these prime free agents sign big contracts elsewhere.
He'll be the majority owner, though.
He is going to be the
He'll-
majority
he'll-
owner.
I wish Dolan would leave. Oh, I would leave. If that would happen to Dolan, that would be great. But let me ask you, I've sent you some stuff,
Yeah.
right? Now
I got a whole bunch of stuff over here.
With this new guy coming in, Omar Minaya may come back. Bobby Valentine may come back. There's a long list. Now, what did you think of Minaya? He did well in the Expos organization.
He got off to a really good start when you think about it because when he first got here from Montreal, he had this reputation for being a really good scout. And when he first got here, he had this reputation for being the guy that wound up seeing all of the best talent out there. He was the one that discovered Sammy Sosa
Yes.
when Minaya was a scout for the Rangers. And then once he got to the Mets, he was making one big deal after another. I mean, he was signing Pedro Martinez, making the deal for Carlos Delgado, and signing Carlos Beltran.
And
It worked for a while, but then
were mad. People were mad at him, though. Do you know why?
people were mad at him because he was bringing in the majority of Latino players onto the roster, which I thought smacked of racism at the time. But for every Carlos Beltran and Carlos Delgado and Pedro Martinez deal that he made, he also wound up bringing in.
He goofed.
Yeah.
He did goof, but he did bring in some good play. He was known as a talent to bring in young guys. He knew talent. He knew how to bring talented young guys. He knew how to mature them. But can you picture a new regime and the Mets actually opening up their wallets now?
I would like to see that.
It's a shame that it's not 5 years ahead, even though we would be 5 years older. But this guy here, if he does what he's supposed to do and gets the players that he's supposed to get, the players that he has now, they're going to vanish.
Yeah.
So that's a shame. But that big deal with also the Mariners, too. Or was it the Mariners? I sent you that they wanted this one guy.
Let me see.
For this four-guy, it was a four-guy deal because they wanted a certain reliever or something of that nature. Anyway, I'm just glad that something good.
I know that there was an article in SI Live that talked about the same thing that I have been campaigning that the Mets do, and that's make a deal for Mookie Betts. They needed outfield help.
Boston, yeah, Boston Red Sox too, yeah. And
for the record, the winter meetings are going to be coming up at the end of the week.
Yeah.
And everyone's predicting this could be, or that could be the time that Garrett Cole signs his contract.
Now, who does he sign with?
Who does he sign with? That's anybody's guess. Who he should sign with? Well, I'm not going to tell him where he should be going because it's his choice.
I'll put it to you like this.
I'll tell you right now. He would look really good in Yankee pinstripes.
I'll put it to you like this. Between the Dodgers, California, and the Yankees, let's say those are the top three choices. Who's got the best chance of winning the World Series with him in it?
Who's got the best chance of winning the World Series?
With him in it.
I think you could argue the Yankees and the Dodgers have the best chance. The Angels are a long ways away from contention. They have got a bunch of contracts that they're trying to get rid of. And yes, I'm talking about you, Albert Pujols. And there's also the matter of their farm system. I have not seen one single blue chip prospect come out of that farm system, with the exception of Mike Trout, that has made a big, big impact for them.
Now you got Carlos Beltran as manager.
Beltran is managing the Mets now.
What is he going to do, and how is he going to affect certain things?
The way he's going to manage is probably going to be almost the exact same way he was when he was in his final years as a player. He's going to be tutoring a lot of the young kids, specifically the Latino players, on how to approach a certain pitcher in a certain way, not just at the plate, but on the base paths too. Look at their mechanisms, and also rely very heavily. He's going to rely very heavily on his coaching staff.
Did he pick a coaching staff yet?
I know he has Jeremy Hefner as his pitching coach. As far as his hitting instructor,
yeah, they did get one. I think they did get one.
And Jeremy Hefner is an ex-Met who was only there a short time, and he wasn't great. But I would think that him being familiar with the Mets organization is going to help that pitching staff quite a bit.
Beltran wanting to get Helmsley Munez. Bam Bam
Helmsley Bam Bam Munez, yeah.
His career was short. His career was very
short in the majors.
He was supposed to be top prospect. He was supposed to be the the greatest thing since sliced bread. And what happened? Nothing.
Well, as it turns out, Hensley Mullins was picked to be the bench coach.
Wow.
Which means he's going to be sitting down with Beltran, and they're going to be talking a lot of strategy with each other. My guess is that he's going to rely on Bam Bam.
Now,
and the reason why he was called Bam Bam was because
he hit a lot of home runs.
Yeah, when he was in the minor leagues, he hit a chunk of home runs. Yeah. But once he came to the Yankees, he was barely a 200 hitter.
He did something. He was like Dave Kingman.
He had his best years in Japan, because when Bam Bam went to Japan, he became an all-star over there. Yeah. And he became a very, very beloved figure over there.
But I'll tell you something.
And for the record, Chili Davis is back as the hitting coach.
Okay.
And he's going to have a guy named Tom Slater as his assistant.
Chili Davis, ex-Yankee, ex-Met, ex-Giant.
Ex-Giant, ex-Angel, ex-Twin, where he won a championship.
Right.
Ex-Kansas City Royal, too.
Right.
And he won 2 titles with the Yankees.
I'll tell you something.
And he was a terrific power hitter.
And they also got a new guy, too, for the bullpen. Musaka, what's his name? Mustake or something. He's another guy. I'm surprised they let go of Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
Going to the Phillies.
Him going to the Phillies is the worst thing
like a slap in the
to
face.
happen to the Mets right now. They couldn't afford to give him a 5-year, $100 million deal. It's
the Will Ponds.
I mean, it doesn't sound like much. Well, let's face facts. 5 years and $100 million, $20 million a year. Let's put it this way. At least it's not an Albert Pujols contract, but they couldn't give him a more than fair offer. I don't even remember them even making any kind of an offer to the kid.
Like I said, I don't think they wanted him in the first place. Who did they sign? I know they signed 1 or 2 players, and that was it.
Well,
they signed a relief pitcher.
They brought back Brad Brock for the bullpen. That's number 1. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the Mets have made very, very
They signed another guy.
News.
They signed that guy with the guy that had the weird last name, Moose something. Anyway, all I know is this: he's a relief pitcher. Mm-hmm. He's a relief pitcher from the Mariners, I think.
Yep.
And boy, the Mets and the Mariners, it must be something. They must be doing a lot of business. But.
And just to give you an idea about the rest of the Mets coaching staff, there's Bam Bam, there's Chili, there's Jeremy Hefner, Ricky Bones is back as the bullpen coach.
Bones.
Yep.
Chili, Bones, and Bam Bam.
Tony DeFrancesco is back as the first base coach, and Gary DeSarcina is back as the third base coach, and Luis Rojas, who had a very short major league career, is the quality control coach.
Now, what does that mean?
In other words, he's basically a guy who makes sure that all of the players get whatever they need taken care of. If it's a
woman,
if it's strength and conditioning, if it's
a woman, he'll take care of it.
No, there are no women involved. If it's strength and conditioning, if it's having an injury being taken care of, he's going to be able to handle that for them.
That's the one thing that I've always found funny about the Mets, that they've always had not the greatest doctors.
No.
They've had a very worse
strange relationship with some of the medical staffs in this city. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have the Hospital for Special Surgery as their main medical sponsor.
Yeah, because some of the doctors they had before, I mean, they were coming back and so on, but that's ridiculous. But
and you mentioned the big addition that they made. They did get Jake Marisnick from the Astros.
Yeah.
That is to get defensive depth because he's a really good defender. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's a center fielder, but he is not much of a hitter at all. I think he's a lifetime 230 hitter for his career.
But here's the thing. What you need, what they really need is bullpen help.
Yeah, they need a bullpen in the worst way, and there are some very capable arms out there that the Mets could try and deal for.
Yeah, cheap ones too, because the Wilpons still have it cheap.
Yep.
They're still now. Question: is the GM of the Mets, now that they got this new guy, is he in trouble? Because from what I hear,
That's the $1 million question.
He's a control freak. This guy,
Van Wagenen?
Yeah. He calls the manager up and tells him what to do. Mm-hmm. Now, that's speculation, ladies and gentlemen. So, do you speculate that he does call and say, play this guy, like George Steinbrenner play Reggie because we pay him so much? What do you do?
If it's true that he goes that far, then that's overstepping his bounds. And I'll tell you right now, once Steve Cohen makes his way in, less than 5 years from now, Van Wagenen's job security is going to be 50-50 at this point. Don't be surprised if he is on the hot seat if things don't go well.
Now, he's got to either make a big splash, but how is he
has to make a big splash.
How is he going to make a big splash when the Wilpons don't want to open up the pocketbooks or they don't have the money? Even though they say they do, but they don't.
He's going to have to try and have a long talk with both of those guys and let them know, you have gone over 30 years without a championship. It's time you started opening your wallets so you could bring in some really good players.
And get the right people.
Yeah, and get the right people, too.
And try to get the right people, because now...
No more Bobby Bonillas. No more Vince Colemans. No more Brett Saberhagens. No more Jason Bays. No more Kaz Matsuis. The Mets have been burned badly by those guys in the past. And you know the Mets still owe Bobby Bonilla money until 2035.
Yeah,
they owe him $1 million a year.
He's set for life.
He definitely is set for life.
But remember I told you last week the comparison between the Mets and the Yankees, how you always hear the Yankees always with the big names. Never the Mets. Oh, the Mets never go for the big names.
Never.
And when they do, their arm blows out the first game. They have bad luck signing new.
You know who? Who was the last really big name?
That was good.
That was really good and made an impact on that franchise. Mike Piazza.
Yeah.
And that was over 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
And Piazza was outstanding for that franchise.
But he had a good team behind him.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he had good pitching. He also had a really good defensive infield during that 1999 season.
Yeah.
I mean, he had Olerud and Edgardo Alfonso and Ray Ordonez. I mean, they were spectacular defensively.
But
they even made the cover of Sports Illustrated.
How do you see the team going with what they have now? Where do you see them? Where do you see them lingering? Because I see
weak.
I see them as, if they go on a hot streak and have fun, that's a good, enjoyable baseball team to see.
Pitching wise, they're very short-handed because
depth.
Now that Wheeler's gone, they don't have a fifth starter anymore. That means
they have four good starters.
I mean, they could get away with it for a while.
Or even three. I mean, the league only needs
DeGrom,
three.
Syndergaard, Steven Matz also, Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, exactly.
Who pitched very well the last month of the season.
Exactly.
I'd like to see what he can do for an entire 6 months out of the year.
No.
But the Mets need a fifth starter in the worst way. And letting Zach Wheeler go was dreadful management. Somebody fell asleep at the wheel there.
No, I don't think they fell asleep. I just think they didn't want him, or they think they can get someone cheaper. That's the problem.
If it's true that they didn't want him,
because
then it's just not recognizing how talented your pitching staff really is.
Because we're not there, but social media, you haven't heard them say, we spoke to him, like that with the Knicks. How to let go Fitzdale? You haven't heard nothing.
They didn't even bother to speak to the media.
That's what I'm saying. You haven't heard nothing from them.
I know the New York media can be a real pain, but the Knicks owe them that much to at least call a press conference or just send out a press release or something.
They owe the fans. They don't owe the media nothing.
Oh, no.
They owe the fans.
They owe the fans an explanation, and they're not giving it to them.
And so that's why I'm making the comparison, because...
Can you imagine what happened if the Mets were owned by James Dolan?
You know,
that franchise would take on 1979 proportions.
I don't think so. You know why?
I do.
You know why? And I'll tell you why. Here's the difference between the Wilpons and Dolan. Dolan is willing, if he was making the money that he makes in MSG, he would open up his pocketbooks. Now, would he stick a nose into the game? That's a whole different story. But Dolan has a tendency to open up his wallet more than the Wilpons, because look how he's paying these coaches. Look how he's Fitzdale. He has a 4-year contract. In 2 years, he's already gone, and he still owes money. Mm-hmm. So every time, Phil Jackson, he owes money. Every coach and GM that he's paid, he always owes them money, and he owes them big money. So I'm looking at it as if Dolan, I think, would be good because he would open up his pocketbook.
Yes, but who would he go and
try
to sign?
That's a whole different ballgame. I'm looking at more as who would be better, pocketbook-wise. And I think Dolan, as much as people hate him, so do I think Dolan would be better. But comparing to the Wilpons, because again,
see, the Wilpons would be right at home in the NBA because the NBA has a salary cap and they don't have to worry about spending money.
Exactly.
All they have to do is go through the draft, go after some C or D list free agent, not pay him that much money, and be worry free.
Yeah, and I don't think they would do well anyway because, let me see. Okay, let's compare. Are the Wilpons loyalists to their players and to their managers?
Apparently not.
Okay.
Now they let Zach Wheeler go.
Is Dolan loyal to his players and managers and
to a fault?
Right. Okay.
He's stuck with that other slime, Isaiah Thomas, for who knows how long.
Right. Okay. So he's got loyalty on his side. He's got the open book on the open wallet on his side. The only difference is that both of them stick their nose into things that they're not supposed to, even though it's them and they can do what they want. But sometimes they don't listen. Dolan listened. They finally got rid of Phil Jackson because everybody was booing him like crazy. Get rid of Phil already. Even though they wanted him, even though they wanted Phil to be the GM. The first people wanted him to be coach. They didn't want him to be GM. They wanted me to be coach. Because how can you be a GM, say, oh, I want the triangle, and then go, but I don't want to coach. But then coaches the practice team.
Yep.
To teach the triangle. That's why they had Kurt Rambis in there and all them other people. But I just find it amusing that if you compare the two, it'd be nuttier than a fruitcake. But going back to the Mets, do you think they will make a big splash? Does the GM keep his job?
Will they make a big splash? Seeing their history, no. Should they make a big splash? Maybe they should.
Who they should go after?
Well, Steven Strasburg is gone. Garrett Cole, it looks like he's going to get his big contract someplace else. Why not make a play for Madison Bumgarner? Madison Bumgarner, he's definitely going to get a job.
Yeah.
He wants to go back to the Giants, but that's another team that's not interested in bringing their player back, which I think is a huge mistake.
Well, here's the thing. They're not going to give him the money that he wants, nor the years. Because now
I think his injury history might be scaring teams off.
Now you have the security job, the security, because now it's this guy signed for 7 years. Mm-hmm. The other guy is going to probably sign for 8 to 9 years. He's 29 years old.
Yeah.
And let's say you get 1 World Series out of him or 2 World Series out of the guy that you signed for that's 29 years old.
Yeah.
So is it worth signing a guy for 8 years to 9 years to get 2 World Series? 8 to 9
years? No.
To get 2 World Series?
No. Not for a guy who's got much injury woes.
And then you get, not Madison, I'm talking about the young dude that they wanted, Cole.
Garrett Cole?
Yeah. But now, mind you.
8 or 9 years? I would see the Anaheim Angels doing such a thing because they have a history of giving stupid contracts out.
But here's the thing.
Look what they did with not just Mike Trout recently.
Right.
They gave him, I think, a 12-year deal. And what about Albert Pujols, who is now approaching the 9th year of his 10-year contract?
Good for him. Good for him.
And
he's still a dangerous hitter.
He's still a dangerous hitter. He can take one out every now and then. But his batting average and, to a lesser extent, his run production has gone way down.
But here's what...
And he's approaching, actually, I think he's either approaching or he just passed his 40th birthday.
What I'm trying to get at is, if you sign this Cole dude, right? Mm-hmm. Then you got Aaron Judd.
Yeah.
You don't know if he's leaving. You have
the Yankees are going to make it every effort to try and bring this kid back.
Giancarlo Stanton, you have his salary.
Yeah, although I think he has an out clause in his deal.
Yeah, exactly. So do you re-sign him or not? Gary Sanchez, do you re-sign him or not? You have a lot of players that you have to decide, okay, wait a minute. If I sign this good dude for $164 million, whatever, for 9 seasons, or 9 years, how much is Judge going to ask for? How much is this guy going to ask for? Because remember, he only plays every 4 days. So.
It's really interesting that you mention those guys, because knowing and hearing about how great a negotiator Brian Cashman is, one thing that we know about Cashman, he talks at length to a lot of the potential signees that he wants to show interest in. Knowing how much of a good negotiator he is, I think it's a really good chance that the Yankees bring back Judge and Sanchez and maybe Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, but that's a big salary.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay that luxury tax and all. They're doing it now. You notice how they went away for a while. They got the small little contracts. They built up their minor league system and all that. And I think they did it for this, just like the Knicks did.
Yep.
I've been hearing on ESPN, WFAN, and all them other sports channels that you may not like what Mills and what the other guy did, but they're set up good for players, for good players that if they want to come for the New York area. Because remember,
right now, the only good player that's out there that's going to be a big ticket free agent next summer is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Because right now, we were talking, me, you, Mike. We were talking, Mike Mills, and he was saying we were talking about contracts, and they said it on WFAN that next year they have some of these players have out clauses next year, so they may be able to get to trade these players. Now, will they blow up? Will they blow up, or do they keep the system that they have intact and go, you know what, let's stay young, let's be productive, let's go in the young way, and then hopefully they'll get a nugget in the draft. And even in the G League, get a nugget in the G League and then explode.
Because there have been certain teams in the NBA who have signed G League guys, and they have made such a great impact. You know the reason why the Miami Heat are being taken seriously this year? Because they have at least 2 or 3 G League players on their roster, and they're all making big impacts.
Yeah.
Funny that you mentioned the draft, because
LaMelo.
Yeah. LaMelo Ball, who, by the way, hurt his foot during action playing in New Zealand.
Greatness. LaMelo is greatness, like his father.
He's going to miss 3 or 4 weeks. And I have been hearing and also reading mock drafts about who these teams that are bottom feeders are going to be going after. One team that the Knicks have been, one player that the Knicks have been connected to is LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
Lonzo Ball's younger brother.
And Matt, that's the second.
You could not, even though they're brothers, you could not try and think of 2 other sets or 2 other siblings that could be no more different in their games than these 2.
Then you got the third one.
LiAngelo Ball. who, if I'm not mistaken, is still a teenager.
Yeah. But he still plays in the league, I think, in the New Zealand league.
Yep.
But the thing that kills me is imagine having his father here.
Oh, let me tell you something. This guy would be such a magnet
he's a good
for the media.
He's a good promoter. You got to give it to him.
He's a terrific promoter.
He's a damn good promoter. He could be.
And it's interesting how his life and his career evolved.
And his wife, was in a car accident or something.
And he takes really good care of his wife. Yeah. Say this for him. He's a terrific husband.
Yeah.
He's also a terrific father. Can he be overbearing? Yes. Does he look out for his family? Yes.
Can he be
big time?
Can he be overbearing with his family?
Can he be overbearing with his family? Yes, he can.
Remember Serena and Venus.
Oh, forget about it. Their father was an ogre.
When they first came up, oh man, that's all you heard was the father this and the father that and the father this and the father that.
And he was looking for people to try and rip in the media. He was ripping the WTA. He was ripping opponents of his two daughters. He was ripping anybody that he could get.
Which one? I think I sent you that article about Serena. I don't think I sent you that one where she wore a certain outfit. She wore like a diving outfit.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it because it wasn't traditional. You know, at some point you got to say screw tradition. If you should wear whatever you want to wear and you should feel comfortable with. It's like when you can't say nothing in golf. Why not? Why do you have to shut up in golf? Oh, is that so much concentration? If you can't...
Because they need the quiet in order to try and concentrate on their shot.
But for God's sakes, then what about football and baseball? They should do the same thing. If that's the case...
Yeah, fat chance.
If that's the case, you might as well be quiet in all. I mean, really. I mean, come on. Actually, it's ridiculous.
If you really want peace and quiet at a football game, just go see the Jets or Giants.
But all in all, do you see the Mets going in the right direction?
Right now, slowly but surely, yes, they're definitely going in the right direction because they have an agent who is doing what he can to try and make the team better in certain ways. Now, I want to see what he does with his pitching staff. Get a fifth starter, get some bullpen help. And while he's at it, get more defensive help on the infield. And while he's at it, see if he could get a defensive-minded catcher. Because Wilson Ramos, as great as he was at the plate last year, he had major, major problems throwing out base runners and blocking pitches in the plate.
Now, where do you see the Yankees going? Do you see them?
I see the Yankees going after Garrett Cole with about $300 million in tow to try and bring him in.
Do you see them going after anybody else?
Oh, they'll definitely go after somebody else.
Didn't they sign someone, a reliever? Didn't they just sign a reliever too, if I remember correctly?
They might have. Let me see.
I think they signed a reliever or something. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that they did. But all in all, so you see the Yankees.
Speaking of the Yankees,
do they really need this guy?
I mean, it would help. I mean, now that CC Sabathia retired, they're going to need somebody to be that.
Because Tanaka's going next year.
Yeah, to be that fifth wheel behind Tanaka and James Paxton and Jay Happ and also Luis Severino. There's also the matter of whether they're going to bring back Domingo Germán.
Yeah.
Because he got suspended for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that's 6 starters that they have in tow right now, assuming that they get Cole.
And Didi Gregorius may go.
Didi Gregorius, from what I understand, is a goner, which would be a real shame because he was such a great, great shortstop for them. He gave them 5 really solid years. This past year, he only played half the season because he was hurt and his production went down.
Now, who did they have in case they lose him?
In all likelihood, they're going to move Gleyber Torres to shortstop.
I thought they were going to bring in, they were going to try to sign a free agent, that shortstop or that third baseman that we were talking about that would go to the Mets.
Who are you talking about?
Oh, what's that guy's name? We were just talking about him. He was supposed to go. He would have been a good fit for the Mets, but the Mets already have a third baseman that they're trying out. Oh, I forgot. Oh, the guy from the Colorado Rockies.
You mean Nolan Arenado?
Yeah, him.
Oh, good luck with that one. Because Arenado, he's owed a little bit of money, and I'm not sure if the Yankees would be willing to spend more after potentially landing a mega deal with Cole. I'll tell you what, he would be tremendous. Not just at the plate, but defensively at third for the Yankees.
Did the Yankees sign a first baseman?
Not yet. It would be a good idea if they were to get a first baseman, because right now they have Luke Voigt, they have Mike Ford, the youngster from the minor leagues, the Princeton kid, and also DJ LeMahieu played a little bit of first in his time with the Yanks.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be a fun. It's going to be fun for the fans, not so much for them because it's old business. But it's going to be fun for the fans to see who the Mets sign, who the Yankees sign. If the Yankees sign big and big and big, and the Mets sign no one,
it's only going to make the Met fans cry foul, for lack of a better word.
But they always
even
do
more.
most of the time.
Yeah.
Because they say, well, why can't, you know. Oh, and the Giants and Jets, too.
Oh, brother.
The Giants and Jets, too. We were talking about how they should get rid of both of their coaches.
Speaking of the Giants, they're going to be playing in the next half hour against the
Eli
Eagles.
Manning
And Eli Manning
back,
is going to
baby.
start at quarterback because Daniel Jones is hurt.
And watch him light up the field and make damn sure
Let's see if his
he goes.
offensive line protects him, first of all. He needs an offensive line to protect him, and that offensive line has done nothing the entire season. That's why they've won 2 games. There's also the matter of the defense. Sometimes I wonder if any of the guys that are on that field even know how to play the game of football.
Well, they know how to play better than you and me right now.
I'm seeing a receiver or a tight end wide open or a running back open on a hook play that the linebacker is supposed to take.
Oh, speaking of Nets, we were talking about basketball.
The Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, the Brooklyn
They're
Nets.
okay. They're just okay right now. They have a 3-game winning streak, but they're just okay at the moment.
I was hearing on the radio that they got better players this year than they had last year.
Well, look at the roster. I mean,
they got a good backup center in
Kyrie
DeAndre
Irving,
Jordan.
even though he's not playing this year, Kevin Durant. DeAndre Jordan has played very good defensively, specifically defensively.
That's what he's known for.
And just recently, they wound up picking up Iman Shumpert, who unfortunately is hurt right now.
But he's lighting it up.
Yeah,
he's lighting it up.
Yeah, he's going to give them shooting. Wilson Chandler is a proven veteran who, even though he has not played in full because he's been hurt too, he's going to give them a little bit of scoring. And what about the guys that they have as holdovers from last year? Jared Allen, who the more I see, the more I enjoy watching on the court. He is one outstanding defensive stopper. He changes shots. He alters shots. He guards his man, not just in the paint, but in the perimeter, the way he does and the attitude that he plays every single time is so refreshing. He never complains when he's not given the time. He never complains about anything. All I see is that big smile on his face. He is a joy for Brooklyn Net fans to watch. And what about the guy that wound up replacing Kyrie Irving because Irving is hurt now? And now I'm hearing that he might be out a little bit longer. Maybe he might be out into the new year. Spencer Dinwiddie. He has been a point guard machine every single time. He's aggressive going to the basket. He's aggressive taking the mid-range jumper and the three-point shot. He's ballsy. He's hard-nosed. He is a guy that really does a lot of dirty work. Him and Jared Allen do a lot of dirty work for that team.
Who's the odd man out on that team now?
Who's the odd man out on that team?
Is it that guard? One guard that's not playing very well that they're saying that the Knicks should pick up?
That's a good question.
Should actually trade for him, get a second-round choice. again, the GMs did some nice things because normally the Knicks would do one of these. They would get rid of their first-round draft choices to get an old man, or they would do something stupid like that. At least they're
I think I know who you're talking
consistent,
about.
yeah.
Either Rhodey Korix.
Rhodey Korix, him.
Yeah, Rhodey Korix. It's a shame because Rhodey Korix has been a pretty decent player for them when he's had time on the floor. His problem is he doesn't play any defense. And what about the other newcomers that they have over here? Garrett Temple, Taurean Prince, who wound up lighting up the Hawks in a recent game in his return to Atlanta. What about David Nwaba? A kid who grew up in Los Angeles and attended probably one of the toughest institutions of higher learning that anyone can go to, Cal Poly. Yeah. Cal Poly is an extremely difficult school to try and get into. Never got drafted, and he bounced around from the G League to the Lakers to the Cavaliers to a couple of other teams. Now he's found his way onto the roster in Brooklyn, and he has made so much of all the playing time that he's had.
Between last year and this year, who's got the better team?
The Nets definitely have a better team this year than last year. Last year, I think they were probably trying to find themselves a little bit, and they had that one big streak that wound up carrying them over to the top.
And then, again, apples and oranges, new management. They did a lot. They've done a lot.
Right now.
And the GM, GM did a lot, and the coach did a lot. They stuck with the GM and their coach for a long time.
This is how you run a team correctly. Not just Kenny Atkinson, the head coach, but
they gave him a chance.
Sean Marks, the general manager. They've had maybe 3 years together to try and put together a real contender. And they had some really crappy games that they played in the past. But in 3 years, they were able to turn that team into a team, someone that other teams do not want to play. And get this. During a Nets-Warriors game last year, the Nets gave the Warriors a handful at the Barclays Center.
I don't blame you.
And what happened? Kevin Durant went over to one of their players and gave them praise for the way they played them.
Good.
If a superstar does that to an opponent, you know that they're a player to be reckoned with. Same thing with LeBron James and Luka Doncic after a Laker-Mavericks game. Luka Doncic was torching the Lakers to no end. Yeah. Luka Doncic has probably been an early season most valuable player candidate after a quarter of the year.
Yeah.
And what happened? LeBron goes up to him and says, "You a bad dude."
Yeah. Well, Porzingis, I mean, when he came up in the NBA draft, he was one of the top 3 picks. He was one of the top 3 picks. So.
Yep.
Now,
and to think, Luka Doncic was drafted by the Hawks and traded to the Mavericks for Trae Young. Trae Young is having a pretty decent season with the Hawks right now, but his team cannot get out of their own way. You know, there are a couple of people that actually thought that the Hawks could contend for a playoff berth this year. Well, I wonder what they're thinking right now.
In the NBA East, Eastern Division is not that hard.
Well,
to
maybe
get the 7th or 8th place, that's not that
after
hard.
After 6th place, no, it's not really that hard.
It's not that hard.
But unless you're a team like the Knicks, the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Bobcats, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, all bets are off.
Is Mills' job and the other yes man job in
jeopardy? Yeah. Yes. Don't be surprised if those 2 idiots become the next to be measured for the chopping block.
Well, I can say this much. They can't be all that much idiots because, like I said before, the only thing I give them their worth is the fact that they still have a lot of first rounds and second round draft choices. They haven't destroyed the team by going, you know what? let's win now and let's get old players again. Give us your old, your meek, and your weary. They're not doing that anymore. They're actually trying to go in the young direction, which is great. You know, yeah, and they're trying to go through the draft. Hopefully, they'll land someone, and they won't piss them off like they did. Well, we'll never know what happened with Porzingis and them. We'll never know.
You know who the Knicks really need? A franchise player. You look at every championship team.
Was Porzingis a franchise player?
He was really close to a franchise player.
But he was one that couldn't stay on the court.
Precisely. The most he ever played in one season with the Knicks was 73 games. You need your superstar to play 80 games a year if you want your team to have a chance. That's one thing. The Knicks need someone for 80 games, whether it's through the draft or if they're lucky enough to get a big superstar, to change that franchise's fortunes. That's why I say it may sound a little far-fetched, but could LaMelo Ball be that guy? Because I saw him play in an Australian League game for the team that he plays for in New Zealand.
Right.
All I ever saw from him was him lighting it up from three-point range, taking it really, really strong to the basket. See, that's the difference between LaMelo and Lonzo. Whereas Lonzo is a terrific passer, that's what people don't seem to accept.
Right.
And the fact that he's a really good defensive player as well. He's very underrated defensively. LaMelo Ball is a really strong offense first, take it to the basket, really slick passing tweener. He could go anywhere between guard and forward.
But here's a guy that was supposed to be drafted last year. Nobody wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody paid attention. They all thought he wasn't good enough to be in the NBA last year. So he had to work on his game. Somebody must have gotten to him because he's working on his game real good.
Let's see what LaMelo can do once he comes back in 4 weeks from his foot injury.
But let's see. The other thing is, who's coming out of the draft next year? If
there's one guy that I know of who could be the one that the Knicks go after. And the Knicks have been needing a point guard for a long, long time. Probably going back to the Clyde Frazier years, or maybe even Mark Jackson if you want to go back that far. Cole Anthony from North Carolina. This is a kid that can really sparkle when he's on his best game.
Do you like the way they do the draft now?
I mean, with the 2-round draft, I mean, it'd be a little bit more interesting if we saw a much longer NBA draft, at least 7 rounds, like they do in the NFL.
If you see, should the first place team be able to get the number 1 draft choice?
If you're talking about maybe putting every single team's ping pong
ball
into a bowl.
How is it set up? Because what is it? 1 through 5, 1 through 7.
They take the teams with the 14 worst records, unless it's a team that made a deal in the past that got them into the top 14,
right.
And they all put them in a bowl. They put their names in a ping pong ball, put the ping pong balls in a bowl, and then they'll count from 14 to 1 as to who's got a particular pick.
And then afterwards, the guy with the number 1 best record in the league, do they have a shot at getting the number 1 draft choice? I think they do this year.
There were times when number 1 teams in the league did get that first draft pick. And the one team that I can think of is the Celtics. When they won the title in '86, they drafted the now late Len Bias, who never played a game for them because he died of cardiac arrest after taking cocaine.
But I can say this much. It should be the first 4 or 6 worst teams and let them battle it out. And the other guy should go back to, I think, probably to the old system. because this new system, I don't think it's fair to
You know, it's funny that you mentioned this.
There's a lot of people that complained about it too.
Yeah.
Because people that have the work now, it prevents them from tanking.
Yeah.
But how do you know they're tanking? That's the whole point, you know.
You just have to watch them really, really carefully. But it's interesting that you mentioned this because there's been some talk about possible changes in the NBA, and they do include draft picks. For example, they want to shorten the season to probably 78 games. They also want to have an in-season playoff. And I think the talk was that whoever would win that in-season playoff would have extra draft picks coming their way. Now, if you really want to make some changes, I mean radical changes, I mean the in-season tournament would be okay. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think they have in-season tournaments in the EuroLeague. And I think they do the same thing in soccer as well.
So how would you handle it?
I would, first and foremost, I would get rid of that bogus Eastern Atlantic Division, Central Division, Southeast Division. I would get rid of all 6 divisions, have them 15 teams each in one conference, the East and the West, and instead of going by best record in a particular division or conference, have them go by the best team in the league. The only problem with that, you'd have a lot of problems with traveling. For example, let's say the Lakers were to go up against a team like, I don't know, the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, that's a tough
Can you imagine all the travel that these two teams would have to go through? Not just for that round, but for potentially all 4 rounds of the playoffs.
It's bad enough they do it twice a year.
Yeah.
You know, so, but anyway.
Yeah.
You know, but going back to football, Eli Manning.
Eli's going to play tonight.
Eli, now, for all you hypocrites out there that are going to say, if he wins today, oh, Eli Manning shouldn't be in the football. Those are the guys that I never hear on neither ESPN, WFAN, none of those sports channels. I haven't heard yet that they should bring back Eli Manning. And I love it until if this guy wins today, you're gonna hear people from all stations come out and go, oh yeah, he should have won. Oh yeah, he should have been our quarterback all this time. Oh man, what a bunch of bogus nonsense. But all in all, the Jets.
At least the Jets were able to win an important game. Granted, they're a 5-8 team, but the Jets, somewhere down the line, had to win a game within their own division.
They need a receiver.
Oh, they need receivers in the worst way. They need receivers. They need a franchise tight end. Maybe go after some depth at running back because Le'Veon Bell has barely touched the ball this season. And
that's another guy that the coach don't like. You heard him before saying, why do we have to get this guy? So
the Jets also need down linemen and linebackers. And I think they could use at least 2 more guys in the secondary. I mean, that's really saying a lot, but the Jets really do need a lot of help. First and foremost, do something at wide receiver and get some offensive linemen, please.
Was that the ugliest game, the 49ers game? Or was that
Actually, that was the best game of the whole day, 49ers and Saints.
Go ahead.
The reason why was because the 49ers got off to a really quick start, and then the Saints, who have a future Hall of Famer at quarterback, Drew Brees, wound up bringing them back into the game. They even took the lead in the last minute of the game. And the Niners were this close to probably losing any chance they had at a number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. But what happens? Jimmy Garoppolo, who, when he's on the field playing 16 games, is the franchise player, hands down. Made the biggest play of the game when he threw the ball to George Kittle. And he wound up doing his Mark Bavaro impersonation by not only dragging 2 or 3 defenders about 5 or 10 yards, but overcame a face mask penalty to get those 5 or 10 extra yards. And what happens? Robbie Gould, who just got signed, winds up making the game-winning field goal. And now, who's the best team in the NFL? You could argue either the 49ers or the Ravens. And at this rate, if they keep on winning games like this, they're going to have a Super Bowl rematch in February. And I think it's going to be a terrific game. And they've already played each other once in Baltimore. The Ravens got the game-winning field goal.
Now, that's the way a football game should be played.
Outstanding. And then Patriots Chiefs in Foxborough, the Patriots were actually robbed of a touchdown because the receiver that wound up going down the sidelines supposedly stepped out of bounds. Not only did the replays show that he was inbounds, for some reason they would not review that play. And because of that, well, not just because of that, but also because the Chiefs' defense actually played well against Tom Brady, the Chiefs came away with a huge win.
Look what I just gave you. Look at that.
Turning to hockey. Keandre Miller and Zach Jones are going to be... by the way, Keandre Miller and Zach Jones are two prospects that the Rangers are really, really high on for the future. They've just made Team USA's junior roster. Don't be surprised if you see these kids possibly suit up for either Team USA at a future Winter Olympics or for the big club. The Rangers have gotten off to an okay start. I mean, if you look at their record overall, they're a 500 team. But I still think that they're missing a little bit more scoring for them to try and get past that next level. And unfortunately, there's some sad news to report.
Yeah.
The guy that made famous the Ice Bucket Challenge for ALS, Peter Freites, passed away. Because Peter Freites suffered from Lou Gehrig's disease, and unfortunately, he passed away at age 34.
Cole signing. I mean, all these things. The Devils. The price of Taylor Hall is high, but
yeah, it looks like Taylor Hall is going to be finding a new address pretty soon.
The Nets interested in bringing back Rendon.
The Nationals?
Yeah.
So the Nationals are interested in bringing Anthony Rendon back after all. That's interesting, considering that they already gave a big contract to Strasburg. What could they possibly do, though?
Who knows? 5 free agent relievers Mets could target as winter. Now this should be fun. This should be a funny article because, you know, it goes with Dylan Betances.
Now he would help. He would be huge for that bullpen. Kevin Gausman. I think he would be a pretty decent starting pitcher for them. Blake Trinan, yes. Will Harris, very good for the bullpen. Joe Smith, an ex-Met who was there for, I think, 3 or 4 years, he would be really good for that bullpen. Joe Smith, Will Harris, and probably Blake Trinan would all be in there and give the Mets major help in the bullpen, just like that.
Mid reliever too. That's what they.
And the same thing with Dylan Betances.
You know. So, but all in all, ladies and gentlemen, we gotta leave you soon. But Jamie, take it away.
We want to say thanks to Kenny Graham on the other side of the glass, and we also want to say thanks to you guys for watching at home. So, for everyone here, I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector.
We hope that you have a wonderful week. Good night, everyone.